Good morning, everyone. For those of you who could join me now, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm teacher and virtues facilitator at the Charles C. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center here in Cheshire. And we have a beautiful day in Cheshire today. I think it's going to go up to about 25 degrees, 26. So I think it's going to be really, really nice. I hope everybody's doing well. We are working through the Family Virtues Guide by Linda Cavalo-Popoff, and we've recently looked at the 10 guidelines for establishing clear boundaries in your family. And as we said, establishing family ground rules is one of the best ways to set clear boundaries. You know, to be effective, chosen boundaries need to be those which everyone in the household is committed. Okay, so don't forget that. And establishing family ground rules is perhaps the most important way to keep children feeling safe, both physically and emotionally. You know, children will test your limits. So they watch what you do more than what you say. So very important to get limits set up. We also mentioned, of course, that families that have boundaries that are too loose, you have children that have too much freedom and they're not obedient, and it becomes chaotic. And if the boundaries are too tight, then of course you end up with it may look good, but not necessarily good. You know, when it becomes too tight, then it becomes dominant type parenting, and there's usually punishment takes place, and there's shaming involved, and those kinds of things, okay? So we did look at the 10 boundaries already, the 10 effective ground rules. They were being moderate, of course, only 5 or 6 ground rules, being specific, and that is strictly to your own house and not based on what other people are doing. And be positive and base ground rules on the virtues. And I gave some examples there, like our home is a peace zone, so peacefulness could be one of your boundaries, and cleanliness, respect, consideration, responsibility. I said any other virtue that you might want to teach in your house, right? In your home would be the one. Then establishing specific and relevant consequences. In other words, let the punishment fit the crime. So whatever the rule that has been broken, you know, you would come up with a consequence that would fit that, right? Number 5 was use consequences which are educative. Then number 6 was be consistent. Very important that you're consistent with your consequences. Number 7, communicate rules clearly. Make sure children understand what the rules are. It's hard to expect a child to obey rules that if they don't know, specifically what they are. And when children, number 8 was when children receive consequences, make sure they understand the reasons. Very important. And number 9, make the ground rules non-negotiable. Number 10 was be flexible, revise the rules over time. So we've gone over these, each one specifically. And now, today we want to look at giving choices within boundaries. Okay, so let's have a look at that section. One of the times we need to set clear boundaries beyond the ground rules we have for our families is when children or adults have choices to make. When children are small, most of their choices need to be given within predetermined boundaries. For example, they cannot choose where they're going to play since this is a safety issue. If given free choice, they could wander off, get lost, or expose themselves to danger. They must be given choices within boundaries, such as, would you like to play in the backyard or the front yard? Would you like to sit in your high chair and play while I'm cooking, or in the playpen in the living room? And there's a choice. It is merely foolish to ask a 2-year-old what he wants for breakfast. Let's see. How about jelly beans and lemonade? Well, if you ask him. But it is very helpful to his budding discernment to offer him a choice within limits. Today, would you like porridge or eggs for breakfast? It is mere foolishness to ask a child, would you like to go to bed now? Yeah. At bedtime, you might say, it's bedtime. Would you like the story we read last night or a new one? When we fail to give choices within boundaries, we are begging for a power struggle. One, our children is far more likely to win than we are. Kids seem to have more perseverance than we do. Also, they use an entirely unique deductive system of logic. They think, I want it, therefore there must be a way for me to get it. Not necessarily that they're thinking that way, but that's kind of the feeling, eh? Worst of all is the just because stance children can take when asked to justify their behavior. Why did you do that? Because. And that's it, like nothing further, right? You know? And I've heard that a lot. Best not to even try. Boundaries, on the other hand, have the power to move them literally. Okay, so let's look at Chucky. No, not the movie. A little scenario here in our book. Chucky was a memorable child we met at a small dinner party in the home of his parents. He was seated in one of the dining room chairs, his small 4-year-old frame braced with his hands clinging to the arms of the chair. The dialogue began. Mother, in a sweet voice. Chucky, our dinner guests are here. Wouldn't you like to move out of that big chair into your high chair? A good start, but she's lost it. Here's Chucky's answer. Nope. Mother again, in a more pleading tone this time. If you don't, our guests will have nowhere to sit. And Chucky responds, Mother, sweeter than ever. Chucky, wouldn't you be more comfy in your own chair so you can see everyone? Chucky is unmoved. Wow. When a parent gives a child too much power or leeway in decision-making without setting parameters for their choices, the child almost always wins the battle of wills. And we've experienced that. However, it is in reality a loss of security. Children such as Chucky, who are given too much power, have nightmares, wet the bed, and show anxiety in other ways. To be given power over their powerful parents is, in a very real way, a loss of security and trust. If I have all this power over this grown-up, who is supposed to be taking care of me? Is anybody around here strong enough to protect me? This is not coming out of a 4-year-old, but it's sort of the thinking or attitude train of thought. Here's how the dinner room scenario could have gone if Chucky's mother had set clear, virtues-based boundaries and offered him choices within them. Okay, so here it is again, this time a little change. Mother says, Chucky, it's time to move into your own chair now. The guests are here. Chucky responds, nope. Mother, picking him up and putting him in his high chair. You can be courteous, can't you? Wouldn't Miss P look silly sitting in your high chair? Chucky would probably get a chuckle out of this, but would also know that Mother meant business. Should he continue to rebel or accelerate the struggle, Mother would again refer to the boundary and give him choices within it. Chucky, no, I don't wanna. I wanna sit in a big chair. Mother, Chuck, you have a choice now. You can be obedient and courteous and join us for dinner, or have dinner in your room. A creative and more flexible alternative is that you may wish to allow him to sit in a big chair. You can do that if there are plenty of chairs, but don't do it if you have already insisted he sit in his high chair. Okay? Don't change your mind, in other words. Stick with the rule. Be consistent. If you chose this alternative, you would again call Chucky to courtesy. You may sit in a big chair tonight if you will be courteous to Mrs. P and help your father get a chair for her. Interesting. Now, set boundaries when virtues are violated. Okay, the next little section. Set boundaries when virtues are violated. Setting a clear boundary is called for when justice or respect or some other virtue is being violated in your relationship with someone in the family, whether adult or child. If someone tends to be sarcastic or abusive in the way he speaks, you can decide what you're going to do. You could say, if you speak respectfully, I will listen. Or, I am willing to listen to you only if you speak respectfully, and walk away. Come back later and say, do you want to talk now? If you are playing a game and the children start to roughhouse and you are not in the mood, you can say, I will play as long as you are being peaceful. Period. If the roughhousing begins again, just get up and do something else. If they plead with you to come back, say as little as possible. Maybe I will play with you tomorrow. This is not about power struggles or manipulation. Set your boundary and let your behavior speak for itself. Actions always speak louder than words. Since 90% of what children learn comes from observation. So, you see how important it is to set the boundaries, stick with them, be firm, be consistent, but our virtue for the day, but be flexible. And being flexible, that's where you're giving choices within the boundary, okay? You're not changing the ground rule. You're simply giving, choices within boundaries. And of course, as we've just seen, that's important. Flexibility, you will read this book tonight. No. Well, maybe this book or that book or this book, you can take a choice, right? But you're still reading the book, So what is the virtue of flexibility? Flexibility is being open to change. It means not always having to have your own way. It is being open to the opinions and feelings of others. With flexibility, you are willing to change your mind. If something doesn't work, you try a new way. Flexibility is making changes for the better. Got to stress that one. Flexibility is making changes for the better. So why should we practice flexibility? Without flexibility, people keep doing things the same old way when new ways are needed. They become rigid. They get angry and upset when things don't go their way and try to control other people. When you are flexible, you adjust and adapt. You bend like a tree in the wind. You keep making positive changes. Keep that in mind. So how do you practice flexibility? When you practice flexibility, you let go of bad habits and learn new ones. When you see a need for change, look inside and find the virtue you need. And this is where the virtues cards come in, okay? Like the pack of virtues cards. Now, unfortunately, these are only available on the Amazon.com, okay? The book, the Family Virtues Guide, this one, you can get this on Amazon.ca, but these are only found on Amazon.com, okay? or Virtues Project Store, I think it's called as well. And so this is where you would just pick a card, and that hopefully would be the virtue that you needed to focus on for that day. I just picked loyalty. But we're dealing with flexibility right now, okay? But I'm going to study that loyalty one after, okay? All right, so when you see a need for change, look inside and find the virtue you need. Then practice it little by little, day by day. Remember, we're not perfect. We're just trying to be better today than we were yesterday, and so on. Try new, creative ways to get things done. Accept the things you cannot change. Go with the flow. When you are flexible, you enjoy surprises. I've heard the definition of insanity is when you continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If you want a different result, you kind of have to do things a little bit differently. So the virtue of flexibility comes in, and quite important. Anyway, what is it like to be around people who are flexible? What is it like to be around people who are flexible? I think it's, personally, I think it's good. A little poster point here, a little quote. It says, "Day by day, little by little," and we just read that in the virtues quote. It's in the virtue itself, little by little, day by day. A quote for flexibility: "I bend but do not break." I bend but do not break. And I see these new shoots that come up out of the ground, and they can go with the wind, that kind of thing. Here's another one by Julia Cameron. I learned when hit by loss to ask the right question. What next? Instead of why me? I learned when hit by loss to ask the right question. What next? Instead of why me? And the last one here, anonymous. Change is just an attitude away. So it's a way of thinking, right? You think differently, you act differently, you behave differently, you come up with different results. I also sometimes see too, like change is like new doors opening. When you change your attitude, change your way of thinking, new doors can open for you. So that's the virtue of flexibility. Now, I will be on again on Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I look forward to seeing you then. Well, maybe not seeing, but I'll maybe know that you're there, right? And that's important. So until then, I want you to stay safe, keep that virus out of our towns again. And so until then, and I hope you enjoyed what we did today. So bye for now.